Captain Eric Harris sat calmly in the cockpit of the Falcon, a sleek, advanced fighter jet designed to represent humanity's finest technology. He adjusted his helmet and ran through the pre-flight checks. Outside, the sky was clear, with just a hint of the setting sun casting a golden glow on the horizon. Today was supposed to be routine. A training exercise, a few laps around the perimeter, testing speed and maneuverability. Nothing out of the ordinary. But deep down, Harris felt a strange tension in the air. It was as if something was about to happen. Back at Earth's military command center, General James Walker studied the latest intel. On his screen, the radar blipped with unusual activity. At first, it seemed like a glitch, but then the readings changed. They weren't normal civilian ships. These were massive, sleek vessels moving at incredible speeds, coming in fast from deep space. "Alert the fleet," General Walker said, his voice tight with urgency. "We have incoming targets, and they're not human." Harris heard the voice of his commanding officer in his earpiece. "Captain Harris, this is not a drill. The enemy is here." A chill ran down his spine. This was no simulation. The aliens had arrived. The news spread quickly throughout the command center. For months, there had been rumors of alien ships in deep space, but no one expected them to come this close to Earth so soon. The military had been preparing for a potential threat, but no one was truly ready for this. Humanity had always been at the bottom of the galactic food chain, a young species with much to prove. Many thought that Earth was insignificant to the rest of the universe, but the aliens known as the Alvarian Empire had come to conquer. They had wiped out civilizations before, and now Earth was their next target. Their weapons were advanced, their ships were powerful, and they expected to crush Earth's defenses within hours. Captain Harris didn't have the luxury of waiting for reinforcements. The alien ships were already closing in on Earth, faster than any human craft. The fleet didn't stand a chance against them, unless someone did something drastic. Harris' fingers tightened around the controls of the Falcon. It wasn't much, just one fighter jet against an entire armada of alien warships, but he wasn't afraid. He had trained for this moment his entire life. His instincts, his training, and his courage were about to be tested like never before. "You know what to do, Captain," General Walker's voice echoed in his ear. "Hold the line. Do whatever it takes." Harris took one last glance at the approaching alien fleet on his radar. The ships were enormous, with smooth, angular designs that gleamed in the sunlight. They were far beyond anything humans had ever built, yet Harris wasn't afraid. He knew his plane like the back of his hand. And the Falcon wasn't just a machine. It was an extension of himself. The radio crackled to life again. "Captain Harris, we need you to engage. You are the front line." With a deep breath, Harris locked his hands onto the control sticks. He wasn't just representing Earth's military. He was representing humanity itself. The aliens thought they could waltz in and crush them, but they had no idea what humans were capable of. The engines of the Falcon roared to life, and Harris pushed the throttle forward. The fighter jet shot into the air, cutting through the atmosphere like a blade through silk. His heart pounded as he saw the alien ships getting closer on the radar. Harris's mind sharpened. The key was to be unpredictable. While the aliens relied on precise, mechanical tactics, he would rely on the one thing they couldn't prepare for: human ingenuity. As the Falcon climbed higher, Harris flicked a switch on his dashboard, and the fighter jet's special afterburners kicked in. The jet surged forward, its speed surpassing anything the aliens had expected. The air outside grew thin, and the pressure inside the cockpit increased, but Harris didn't blink. He was focused. The alien ships tried to lock onto his position, but Harris was already weaving and turning, pushing the Falcon to its limits. Every movement, every maneuver was designed to throw off the enemy. He dove and then pulled up sharply, sending the jet spiraling into a roll that left the alien ships struggling to keep up. The aliens weren't used to fighting this way. They relied on technology, precision, and formation. But Harris wasn't fighting with just his machine. He was fighting with his mind. He used the terrain, the atmosphere, and the jet's incredible speed to make it impossible for the alien weapons to lock on. "Captain, what are you doing?" The voice in his ear crackled. It was General Walker again, his tone filled with concern. "I'm doing what they never expected, General," Harris replied. "I'm showing them what humans are capable of." Harris grinned, feeling the thrill of the chase. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about proving that humanity was not weak. That despite being younger, smaller, and seemingly outmatched, humans had something the aliens would never understand: the power of instinct, unpredictability, and the will to fight. The aliens, with all their advanced technology, didn't know what hit them. They were used to smooth, precise tactics, not the chaotic, unpredictable methods of human pilots, and it was exactly that chaos that would give Harris and humanity the upper hand. As the aliens reeled from the unexpected assault, Harris pressed on, determined to prove that Earth's greatest pilot was more than just a fighter. He was a force the galaxy had underestimated. The alien fleet was vast, more than 20 ships, all far larger and more advanced than any human vessel. But despite their overwhelming numbers, they hadn't expected one thing: humanity's raw will to fight. Captain Eric Harris gripped the controls tighter, his knuckles turning white as the Falcon darted through the sky, evading every alien weapon fired his way. The fighter jet had become an extension of his own body, responding to his every command with an almost instinctive precision. Behind him, the fleet of Earth's fighters was already forming up, trying to rally against the alien forces. But the aliens didn't need to chase them. They had the technology, the weapons, the firepower. All they had to do was wait and strike. Harris could see them on his radar. 12 massive ships, all closing in fast, their sleek, metallic bodies glistening like deadly blades in the sky. These ships were known for their speed and destructive power. Each one of them had enough firepower to wipe out an entire city in seconds. But they hadn't anticipated the human response. The Falcon flew through the chaos, making sharp turns and barrel rolls, dodging every beam of energy that shot toward him. The alien ships tried to surround him, but Harris didn't give them the chance. He dove low, skimming the surface of the ocean, and then shot back up into the clouds, disappearing from their line of sight. His mind raced. He had only moments before the aliens adapted and closed in again. He had to make his next move count. General Walker's voice crackled in his ear, calm but urgent. "Captain, we're not going to win this with just one ship. We need reinforcements now." "I don't need reinforcements," Harris muttered under his breath. His hands were already adjusting the controls, his mind calculating his next move. He wasn't about to wait around for backup. If humanity was going to stand a chance, it had to prove itself now, here, in the heart of the battle. Suddenly, the radar blipped with a new set of readings. Something was wrong. Harris glanced at the screen. A new wave of ships was coming in, even larger than the first. They weren't just fighters. These were capital ships, capable of laying waste to entire continents. He didn't have much time. But that wasn't going to stop him. As the alien ships began to regroup, Harris dove into the battle, his fighter jet a blur of motion. His heart pounded in his chest as he shot toward the enemy fleet, pushing the Falcon to its limits. He wasn't just evading now. He was on the offensive. With one swift motion, he locked onto the nearest alien vessel. His fingers flew over the controls, launching a series of missiles that streaked toward the massive ship. The explosion that followed lit up the sky, sending a ripple of shockwaves through the air. Harris's heart raced as he watched the alien ship break apart, its once impressive frame crumbling in seconds. But there was no time to celebrate. The aliens responded quickly, firing back with beams of energy that tore through the air with terrifying speed. Harris barely managed to dodge, feeling the heat of the shots pass by his cockpit. He pulled sharply to the left, executing another roll to avoid a direct hit. His breath was shallow, his senses heightened to their peak. "Good hit, Captain," came the voice of one of his fellow pilots. "But don't get cocky. There's a lot more where that came from." Harris didn't reply. His focus was on the battle unfolding before him. His fighter jet was fast, but so were the alien ships. They didn't need to rely on raw speed. They had advanced weaponry that could target with precision. If he didn't stay on his toes, the next shot might be his last. But Harris wasn't worried about getting hit. What worried him more was what he was seeing on the radar. Another massive ship, this one even larger, was coming in from behind. It was a battleship, a true behemoth, and it was closing fast. He could see the energy building up in its weapons. This was no ordinary ship. If that battleship fired, it could wipe out half of Earth's fleet with a single shot, and it was about to fire. The pressure was mounting. Harris's pulse quickened, but his mind was sharp. This was his moment. He had to stop that ship before it could unleash its power. His hands were steady as he lined up the shot, aiming straight for the energy core of the battleship. His finger hovered over the trigger, waiting for the perfect moment. The ship's guns were charging. It was now or never. "Come on, come on," Harris muttered under his breath. Just as the alien battleship fired, Harris released the missiles. They streaked through the sky in perfect harmony, hitting their target with pinpoint accuracy. The explosion was massive, a brilliant flash of light that temporarily blinded Harris. For a split second, everything seemed to freeze. Then the shockwave hit. The alien battleship was gone. It was a direct hit to the core, and the ship disintegrated in a fiery blaze, leaving nothing but debris behind. The remaining alien forces were thrown into disarray, their formations breaking apart as the shock of the loss reverberated through their fleet. Harris exhaled, his breath shaky but steadying. He had done it. He had taken down the biggest threat. But the battle was far from over. The aliens wouldn't back down easily, and Harris knew that his victory had just shifted the balance of the war. Now the real fight had begun. This section maintains suspense, introduces new stakes with the alien battleship, and deepens the conflict, making the audience eager to see what happens next. The space above Earth had never felt so alive with tension. The battle raged on with both sides locked in a deadly struggle. Alien ships, sleek and terrifying in their design, hovered like predators, waiting for any weakness to exploit. The human fleet, though small and outnumbered, had managed to hold its ground, thanks to the incredible skill of their pilots and their unyielding determination. Captain Harris' heart was still racing from the earlier attack, but there was no time to rest. The air around him buzzed with static, and the communications channel crackled with reports from fellow pilots. "We've lost contact with the Eastern Fleet," shouted one voice, a young pilot named Lieutenant Emily Waters. "The aliens are breaking through our defense line." Another pilot, Captain Daniel Marks, responded quickly. "We can't hold them off forever. We need a new strategy, or we'll be wiped out." Harris adjusted his controls, his eyes scanning the skies for any sign of an opening. The alien forces had learned from their previous mistake, and they were more cautious now. They weren't just attacking, they were evolving their tactics. The human pilots had to adapt, and fast, or risk losing everything. "Focus on the command ship," Harris ordered, his voice calm but firm. "Take down their leader, and we break their will to fight." The alien command ship loomed in the distance, its massive form unlike anything the humans had seen before. It was equipped with devastating weapons capable of vaporizing an entire fleet with a single strike. Harris knew that if they couldn't take it out, they would be fighting a losing battle. But the odds were against them. His fighter, the Falcon, shot toward the command ship with remarkable speed. His pulse pounded in his chest as he flew past the smaller alien ships, weaving between them with expert precision. Behind him, the remaining human fighters followed, their numbers dwindling but their resolve unshaken. The alien ships immediately targeted him, their guns firing powerful energy beams. Harris swerved, narrowly avoiding the blasts. The sound of incoming fire echoed in his cockpit, but he remained focused on the task at hand. "We've got to take down the command ship, or we're all done for," Harris muttered to himself. He had seen it before, how a single leader could inspire an entire army. If they killed the command ship, the alien forces might crumble without their leader's guidance. As he closed in on the command ship, Harris activated his targeting systems, and his fighter's weapons locked on. His fingers trembled, but he knew he couldn't hesitate now. Every second counted. The alien command ship fired, and its weapons released deadly beams of energy that shook the very air around him. Harris dodged, executing a series of tight turns to avoid the incoming blasts. He felt his stomach drop as a beam grazed the Falcon's wing, sending a shockwave through the frame of the fighter. The ship shook violently, but Harris kept his hand steady, refusing to let up. Come on," he whispered under his breath. Suddenly, the alien command ship launched a barrage of missiles, sending them straight at him. Harris gritted his teeth and twisted the controls, evading the oncoming threat. The missiles exploded behind him, sending a shockwave that rocked his fighter. For a moment, it felt like everything was falling apart. But Harris didn't give up. With a fierce determination, he dove toward the command ship, diving between blasts of energy and weaving through the maze of enemy fire. The adrenaline coursed through him as he locked onto his target. He could see the weak spot, an exposed area of the command ship's energy core. "Now or never," he muttered, his hand steady as he fired. The missiles streaked toward the command ship, and in a brilliant flash of light, they made contact. The explosion was deafening. The alien command ship was consumed by fire and light, and for a moment, everything went silent. But that silence was short-lived. The shockwave from the explosion rippled through the battlefield, pushing the remaining alien ships back. The survivors of the human fleet cheered, but the victory was bittersweet. The alien forces were still a formidable enemy, and the battle was far from over. Harris's voice cut through the comms. His calm tone belied the gravity of the situation. "This is just the beginning. The aliens will retaliate. Prepare for what's coming next." The pilots rallied around him, their spirits lifted, but they knew this victory was only a small piece of a much larger war. And as the alien ships regrouped, Harris realized just how much was at stake. The aliens would fight harder now, their pride wounded and their resolve strengthened. But humanity had proven something that day. They were not to be underestimated. The battle was far from over, but as long as they had pilots like Harris, there was still hope. The aliens had underestimated humanity's fighting spirit, and that mistake would cost them dearly. This section builds on the previous suspense, adds more action and danger, and highlights humanity's determination and skill in the face of overwhelming odds. It keeps the audience hooked with an exciting, action-packed moment while setting up future challenges and developments. The battlefield was now a chaotic swirl of flashing lights, blinding explosions, and streaks of energy darting across the dark expanse of space. The alien fleet, once a unified force, was now in disarray. The loss of their command ship had sent ripples through their ranks. But even with this victory, Captain Harris knew that the fight was far from over. He guided the Falcon through a series of evasive maneuvers, narrowly avoiding a barrage of alien fire. His ship's hull groaned under the pressure as a few blasts found their mark. His console flickered with warnings. Shields were at 40%, and energy reserves were dangerously low. Harris knew they didn't have much time before the aliens regrouped and retaliated. "This is just a temporary win," Harris muttered to himself, sweat dripping down his brow. "They'll be back with a vengeance." As if on cue, the remaining alien ships began to reorganize, retreating for a brief moment to regroup and reevaluate their tactics. Harris's stomach tightened. He knew what came next, an all-out assault, one that would push humanity to its limits. On the comms, Lieutenant Waters spoke, her voice cracking with fatigue but still filled with determination. "We can't afford to let them rebuild. If we don't press the attack now, we'll lose our advantage. Hold steady, Harris replied, his grip tightening on the controls. "We need to make them believe they've lost. If we can show them that we're still a force to be reckoned with, they'll hesitate." Despite the fear gnawing at him, Harris trusted his instincts. He knew that this was their one chance to turn the tide. The aliens had underestimated humanity before, and they were about to do so again. Meanwhile, Captain Marks was leading a small group of pilots in a strategic move. They had managed to break through the alien defenses and were now aiming for the alien mothership, their last major threat. If they could destroy it, it would cripple the alien forces, giving humanity the upper hand. But the alien fleet wasn't ready to give up just yet. "Here they come," Harris warned, his voice steady but filled with a sense of urgency. He could see the alien ships regrouping, their weapons charging for the next assault. "Brace yourselves. They won't go down without a fight." Suddenly, the alien fleet surged forward, their ships locking in on the remaining human fighters. Harris's eyes narrowed. The aliens weren't just throwing everything they had left. They were throwing their best fighters. "Full speed ahead," Harris shouted. The Falcon rocketed forward as his fighters followed closely behind. Alien ships darted around them, their weapons blazing. Harris expertly dodged a volley of laser fire, each blast sending shockwaves through the fabric of space. But it wasn't just the aliens that were dangerous now. The lack of supplies, the dwindling fuel, and the damage to their ships were becoming more and more apparent. Harris's mind raced. They needed to finish the battle now before the human fleet crumbled under the pressure. Waters, her voice shaky from the tension but still sharp, spoke into the comms. "Do you think they're just running away, Captain? Or are they setting up for something worse?" "I don't know, Lieutenant," Harris responded, a knot tightening in his stomach. "But I can feel it. They're planning something. The question is, what?" The rest of the fleet, having followed Harris's leadership and determination, now circled around him, silent but vigilant. In that silence, the gravity of their situation began to settle in. They had fought hard, but the alien threat had proven itself relentless, and even though humanity had made their mark, the battle was far from over. Back on Earth, the situation was equally tense. The global governments and military command were in constant contact, each update bringing new anxieties. What had started as a localized conflict now spanned the entire galaxy, and the alien forces were still out there. Humanity had only pushed them back for now, but the sheer size of the alien empire still loomed, waiting for a moment to strike back. Admiral Grace's voice came over the comms, urgent and firm. "Captain Harris, report in. What's the status of the fleet?" "Admiral," Harris replied, his voice steady but filled with an undercurrent of unease. "The fleet has taken a blow, but we've made progress. The alien forces are scattered for now, but I believe we've only seen the beginning of their true plan. I can feel it. They're regrouping. We need to be ready." There was a pause on the other end, as though the weight of his words hung in the air. Then the Admiral's voice cut through the silence. "Understood, Captain. We'll prepare for the worst. Stay vigilant. If they're planning something, we need to act fast." Harris nodded even though the Admiral couldn't see it. "I will. We won't let our guard down." The space around them was deceptively calm. The battlefield from just hours ago seemed like a distant memory, the stars above shining in their indifferent beauty. But Harris's gut told him otherwise. He knew the aliens. They weren't done yet. They never were. Across the galaxy, the alien commanders were assembling their forces once more, preparing for a final, all-out assault on Earth. They had underestimated humanity before, but this time, they would not make the same mistake. Their fleet was rebuilding, their strategy shifting. Back aboard the Falcon, Harris's mind raced. He had seen alien tactics in action before, studied their methods, and understood their motivations. But nothing about this felt right. The alien fleet had been crushed, their mothership destroyed. Yet Harris knew they had something else in store, something big. As he adjusted the controls and listened to his crew, a chilling message appeared on his screen. It was from one of the advanced reconnaissance ships that had ventured deep into enemy territory. "Captain," the voice of the scout came over the comms, laced with fear. "You need to see this. It's too big. They're preparing something massive." Before Harris could respond, the screen flickered to life, showing an image of the alien fleet regrouping at an uncharted location deep within a dark nebula. And there, in the center of it all, was something that made Harris's blood run cold. A new class of alien warship, vast beyond anything they had ever encountered. It was not just a fleet, it was a weapon. A weapon unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Its power could decimate entire planets in a single strike. "That's impossible," Harris whispered to himself, his mind trying to process the image. The ship was larger than anything in their database, with weapons and shields designed to overpower every human ship in existence. "Captain," Waters' voice was filled with shock. "That thing could wipe us all out in one blow. We need to warn Earth, and fast." Harris snapped back to reality. "Get in touch with Earth. We need every ship we can muster. This isn't just a fight for the galaxy anymore. This is a fight for survival." He looked out into the vastness of space, knowing that this was no longer a battle for victory. It was a battle to ensure humanity's future. In that moment, Harris felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. The aliens had been cocky. They had mocked humanity, underestimated them. But now, they would see what happens when humanity's wrath is fully unleashed. This was no longer just a fight to defend their home. It was a fight for their very survival. And humanity would not back down. "All hands," Harris said, his voice resolute. "Prepare for the greatest fight of our lives. This is our chance to prove that we are not just survivors. We are conquerors." As the human fleet rallied to their commander's call, one thing was certain. The final chapter of the war had begun, and no alien force, no matter how vast, would ever forget the day humanity decided to fight back. The human fleet, freshly reinforced and brimming with determination, was now in position. The massive alien warship, its size dwarfing anything the humans had ever seen, hung in the depths of the nebula like a dark omen. Its powerful engines hummed with a low, menacing rumble, while its weapon systems glowed ominously, ready to unleash devastation upon the galaxy. Captain Harris stood at the helm of the Falcon, his face set in grim resolve. The battle ahead was going to be like nothing they had ever faced. Yet, despite the overwhelming odds, Harris believed in one thing: humanity's unyielding will to survive. "Captain, the alien fleet is charging up their main weapon," Lieutenant Waters reported, her voice steady but tinged with concern. "It's massive. If they fire it, the damage could be catastrophic." Harris clenched his fists. "We can't let them fire that weapon. We have to stop them, no matter what it takes." Across the fleet, the ships were preparing for the coming battle. The human pilots, once inexperienced and outmatched, now flew with the precision of seasoned veterans. They had learned, adapted, and grown stronger with every battle. And now, they were ready to take on the alien menace. As the first volley of laser fire erupted from the alien warship, the human fleet retaliated with everything they had. Explosions rocked the vast expanse of space as both sides unleashed their fury. The human ships, nimble and fast, darted through the alien fire, their evasive maneuvers a testament to humanity's quick thinking and resourcefulness. Harris watched as his pilots danced around the incoming fire. They had trained for moments like this, pushing their ships to the limit and beyond. Yet the sheer scale of the alien warship and its overwhelming firepower made it clear that this fight was no ordinary battle. "We need to buy time," Harris said, his voice low and steady. "Water, target their weapon systems. Take out their main guns." "Understood," Waters replied, her fingers moving over the controls as she coordinated the attack. Meanwhile, the enemy ships, smaller but no less deadly, swarmed around the human fleet like a pack of wolves. They attempted to flank the human ships from all sides, their superior numbers giving them a distinct advantage. But the humans were no longer the underdogs. They had the element of surprise and a unified sense of purpose that the aliens couldn't match. Harris saw one of the alien ships break off from the main fleet, charging directly at the Falcon. It was larger than the others, a massive dreadnought armed with energy cannons capable of ripping a ship in two. It was coming for him, and Harris knew that he couldn't outrun it. He gritted his teeth. All hands, brace for impact. Waters, do we have the firepower to take that ship down? We've got a shot, but it's going to be tight, she replied. We need to hit their weak points, aim for their engines, and shield generators. Harris's eyes narrowed as the alien dreadnought closed in. Do it. Give them everything we've got. The Falcon surged forward, its weapons lighting up as it engaged the alien dreadnought in a deadly game of cat and mouse. Laser blasts filled the air, each shot narrowly missing or smashing into the alien ship's shields. The two vessels danced around each other, their weapons exchanging deadly blows in a deadly ballet of fire and metal. Harris's heart pounded in his chest as he guided the Falcon through a series of tight maneuvers, pushing the ship to its limits. The alien ship was relentless, its heavy weaponry pounding the Falcon's shields, causing the entire ship to shudder under the strain. Shields at 40%. Waters called out. We need to hit their engines now. Harris nodded. We don't have much time. Get ready to fire everything we've got, Lieutenant. As the alien dreadnought closed in, the Falcon dove beneath it, narrowly avoiding a blast that would have obliterated them. With a flash of brilliance, Waters fired a precise barrage of weapons at the alien ship's exposed underside, targeting its engine core. For a moment, everything seemed to slow. The massive alien ship shuddered, then erupted in a brilliant explosion. Its core had been hit, just as Harris had hoped. The alien dreadnought disintegrated into space debris, a testament to the relentless determination of humanity's finest pilots. The victory was short-lived, however, as the larger alien warship unleashed its own devastating attack. The beam was bright and terrifying, a massive energy pulse that streaked across space toward the heart of the human fleet. Brace for impact. Harris shouted as he watched the beam draw closer, faster than they could outrun. But just as all seemed lost, a brilliant flash of light cut through the darkness. A new figure appeared in the midst of the battle. A fleet of human ships, emerging from a hidden jump point. The reinforcements had arrived. Led by Admiral Grace's flagship, the new human fleet charged forward, their firepower overwhelming the alien warship's defenses. Together, the united forces of humanity struck back with newfound fury. The aliens, realizing they were now outnumbered and outgunned, began to retreat. But this time, humanity wasn't going to let them get away. With a final, devastating strike, the human forces destroyed the alien flagship. As the last of the alien ships turned tail and flowed into the void, the human fleet let out a collective cheer. They had done it. The galaxy was safe. For now. But Captain Harris knew the war was far from over. The battle had been won, but the war was only just beginning. Humanity had proven itself capable of defying the odds, of striking fear into the hearts of alien invaders. And as long as they were willing to fight, the galaxy would know that Earth's greatest weapon wasn't just its technology, it was its people. We're not done yet, Harris said quietly, his voice filled with resolve. Humanity will always rise, no matter the odds. And with that, the human fleet prepared for whatever the galaxy had in store next. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The human fleet hovered in the silence of space, the remnants of the alien forces scattered in the wake of their hard-earned victory. Captain Harris stood on the bridge of the Falcon, his eyes fixed on the wreckage of the alien dreadnought that had once threatened to destroy them all. The battle had been intense, and the cost had been high. But in the end, humanity had triumphed. Captain, Lieutenant Waters said, her voice breaking through the heavy silence. "We've received a transmission from Admiral Grace. She's calling for a fleet-wide debrief." Harris nodded and turned toward the communications officer. "Put it through." The face of Admiral Grace appeared on the large screen before him. Her expression was one of pride, but also one of solemn responsibility. The victory was theirs, but the weight of what had transpired was evident in her eyes. "Captain Harris," she said, her voice steady, "congratulations on your success. You and your crew have done humanity proud. But I'm afraid this victory is only the beginning." Harris's brow furrowed as he listened intently. "What do you mean, Admiral?" "The alien forces are in retreat," Grace replied. "But they will regroup. They are far more powerful than we've realized. We've only just scratched the surface of their capabilities. The galaxy is vast, and we're still just a small part of it. The real war is only beginning." Harris clenched his fists at his sides, the weight of her words sinking in. He had known this was coming, but hearing it spoken aloud made it feel all too real. The war wasn't over. Humanity had proven itself capable of great things, but it had also made powerful enemies, enemies that would stop at nothing to wipe them out. "But we're not alone anymore," Harris said, his voice resolute. "We've made allies. Together, we'll stand against whatever comes next." Admiral Grace's eyes softened slightly. "Yes, Captain. You've shown the galaxy that humanity is not to be underestimated. But we must be prepared. We can't afford to relax. The fight will get harder before it gets easier." "I understand, Admiral," Harris said firmly. "We'll be ready." As the transmission ended and the communication officer turned off the screen, Harris turned to face his crew. The bridge was quiet for a moment as everyone absorbed the gravity of the situation. They had won a great victory, but there was no time to rest on their laurels. The future of humanity was uncertain, and they were standing at the precipice of a new chapter. "All right, people," Harris said, his voice filled with determination. "We've won today, but tomorrow, we prepare. We're not just defending Earth anymore. We're defending the entire galaxy." Lieutenant Waters looked up from her console. "Captain, the fleet is reporting readiness for the next phase of the operation. We've got reinforcements coming in, and the fleet is at full strength. We're ready to take the fight to them." "Good," Harris said with a nod. "We'll use this victory to fuel the next step. Let's show them just how far humanity can go when pushed to the edge." The crew went to work, their movements efficient and practiced. There was no time for celebration. Humanity's victory had been hard-fought, but the war was far from over. The enemies they had just faced were only one part of a much larger conflict, and they couldn't afford to let their guard down. As the Falcon moved away from the wreckage of the alien fleet, Captain Harris looked out at the stars. The galaxy stretched out before him, vast and unknowable. He knew there were more challenges ahead, more battles, more struggles. But he also knew one thing for sure: humanity would face whatever came next, together. "We've proven ourselves," he muttered to himself, his voice barely audible over the hum of the ship's systems. "We've shown them that humanity doesn't give up, and we never will." And with that, the human fleet set its course, ready for the next battle. The war for the galaxy was far from over, but humanity had taken its first steps toward shaping its future, a future where they would not just survive, but thrive. The galaxy may have underestimated them, but now they knew better. Humans were a force to be reckoned with, and nothing, not even the most powerful alien invaders, could stand in their way for long. As the ships of humanity sailed into the unknown, their legacy was already being forged. The story of their triumph would echo through the stars, a reminder to all that no matter how fierce the enemy, no matter how impossible the odds, humanity would always rise, and they would never be forgotten.